writing thanks. One thing about a habit of giving thanks. Now you folks listen up. This is a sermon. It's real short. One thing about giving thanks is it elicits two human characteristics. One is humility. In giving thanks, you acknowledge you didn't do it yourself. And two, generosity. If you've been the beneficiary of blessings, you can do the same.
Thank you, Rob. Very good. Okay, well, Anna, I did call her, and I need to call her again. She's been AOL for a while. But thank you very much, Mary, for greeting. And Mike Runner, Bob, thank you. And Scott, Raffle Newsletter, thank you. And thank you again for our setup team. Appreciate that. And welcome to our guests and visitors. Kathy, where are you? There you are, great.
I'd like to introduce Pauline Pellini.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. I'm from the Sebastopol Rotary Club, the Noon Club, and I am lucky enough for 25 years to have been doing the Interact Club at Brookhaven Middle School. And these middle school kids blow me away with the generous hearts they have, the giving they do, the projects they undertake. And I have with me today the president of Brookhaven School, Ella, and the vice president, Izzy. And I know they would like to speak to the club when it's convenient for you.
Thank you. Okay. And, well, Sarah, you're not quite a visitor anymore. It's so good to have you here. Thank you. Do we have... Oh, here comes some more people. Are they visitors?
Next wife.
And we have two late arrivals, visitors to the club, my wife Teresa and oldest granddaughter Neva.
Oh, welcome, welcome. I'm glad to see you. Okay, start recording, which you've done, thank you. And time to mute all. It looks like we don't have much on the Zoom field, so the heck. Okay, happy birthday, Jerry. Happy birthday to you. Joe.
Good morning. Yeah, my birthday today. Anyway, my neighbor gave me a couple of bags of lemons from her lemon bush. And my daughter from Seattle is visiting, and she's making me a lemon meringue pie for dessert tonight. It is, and my other daughter from Menlo Park, I think, is coming up after work today, and we'll have a nice dinner.
Nice. Thank you. Shall we sing Jerry happy birthday since it's his birthday day?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jerry. Happy birthday to you. And many more.
And Marnie, you have one coming up here on this December 6th.
I sure do. And I'm very excited because my birthday present is that my daughter, my granddaughter, and my daughter's spouse are coming in Friday morning, and they'll be here for just 48 hours from Brooklyn, and then they have to go back because of work. But I am just so thrilled because it's been a long time since I saw them. So that's the present that I'm receiving.
Wonderful. Oh, that sounds delightful. Thank you, Marnie. Okay, Scott, we have a craft talk from our own Scott Menzie.
Good morning, club. So,
I'll show you what I want you to do here, unless you want me to do it for you.
President Diana asked me to do a vocational talk because my vocation is so strange. What was I gonna say? Oh, anyway, I'm a prototype designer for mainly toy companies. They hire me to produce their prototypes, and then they go and manufacture them. That's pretty much it. This is a picture of me with my den back in the Boy Scout days, and it's a bad picture, and I kind of like it that way. Down here, I got it. Okay. I used to do a lot of work for display companies and people that did in-store kind of displays. And here I am with a reindeer. So my beard wasn't always this color. And so there it is. So then at some point, this is a picture of a Barbie Happy Meal. And you can see that in the upper right, there's the clay piece. And then I would make a mold that you would see at the bottom. And then cast urethane resin parts. And then have that painted. And you can even see the drawing that they gave me to start with. So it was very rare that I would actually design the piece from the beginning. The company would usually give me a drawing, and then I would produce the part, and then I would work with the licensor to get it approved, in this case, Mattel. So, I worked at Tony Toys for a while. Excuse me, I got bacon on my ears. And while I was there, they were making a play set. So they gave me these drawings, and I sculpted the little guys there at the bottom. And I start them in clay, and then I make a mold, and I cast them in wax, and then I refine the wax, and then I make another mold and cast resin parts. So these are the wax little guys. You can see I'm kind of interpreting somebody else's drawing, but basically that's it. When I worked at Tony, I did snorts, which were like underwater Smurfs. And these were wind-up toys, like for the bathtub. They swim around. So that was fun. This is just a group picture of a lot of the items that I did over the years. I've used this on my website that Lincoln helped me put together. So a lot of little stuff there, and yeah.
Yay!
After Turtles, after Tommy, well, Tommy disappeared because Coleco bought them with their Cabbage Patch doll money. And so I decided to go freelance. So one of my first lines was the Ninja Turtles. I mostly did bad guys, but I did some good guys. Uh-oh, I broke it. Oh, was that it? Oh.
Time's up.
Okay, well, that was it.
Well, that's what I had from you. Did you have more? Well, I was waiting for what would go wrong this meeting. Yeah, so I did it. I'm sorry, I didn't have your other
Oh, that's
pictures.
all right. Everybody gets the
But
idea.
you're welcome to come up here and talk about it if you like. You're good? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to, excuse me. I wanted to mention that there's a big party at my house on Friday.
That's right.
So don't forget to come. It's a potluck, so bring something good. And you want me to mention the website? Yeah, the website is toysculpt.com. That's one word. And there's lots of pictures, including the ones that you didn't just see.
Okay, thank you, and I apologize for not having all of your pictures. Okay, Pauline, Come on up. Okay, Ella, Izzy, come on up.
Hi, my name is Ella McNeil, and I'm in 7th grade, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about one of our students.
Hi, my name is Izzy Velasco Champion. I'm also in 7th grade, and I'm the vice president of Brookhaven Interact Club.
Samuel is a Brookhaven 5th grader who was born with a congenital heart defect, which resulted in a one-chamber heart instead of 4 chambers. Samuel has been a student with SUSD since 1st grade and has fully participated in all of his classes, at times even having to utilize a bubble to keep him safe during COVID.
Recently, Samuel's other organs were starting to fail due to the limitation of his heart. He has been on heart transplant list since last April, and he got a call from Stanford on Wednesday, October 26th, insisting that he, instead of driving to school, they drove straight to Palo Alto.
1 month after surgery, Samuel is doing well. There have been a few minor concerns, but he's sitting up, walking a few steps with help, and even did some painting and got a wagon ride outside for the first time in a month.
Samuel's recovery in the ICU will be about 6 weeks, then he will be moving to a lower level unit for another 2 weeks. Once he is discharged, they will need him to stay at Ronald McDonald's house for 3 months so that Stanford can continue to monitor for rejection medication and other adjustments. It'll likely be March before they get back to Sebastopol if all goes smoothly.
Thank you so much for having us today. We appreciate any support your club is willing to offer.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Ella, and thank you, Izzy, for being here and for being an Interact and being our future Rotarians. Thank you so very much. Okay, we had some road cleanup, Bill.
Yeah, we had a great time. It was coolish, but we had a small but hearty group of folks, including half interactors and half Rotarians, and we did a good cleanup and hauled all the trash off to John's dumpster and cleaned up High School Road, all in honor of our good friend Louis Popper.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Bill. And thank you for keeping our community cleaned up and the environmental hazards that you get out of the way for us. Thank you so much. Okay, there was a morning hike before Thanksgiving, and it looks like, okay, Marnie, where were you?
I'm right here.
No, I mean on your hike.
Sorry.
Oh, you're busy, I'm sorry.
No, I'm good now. So it was just Charlie and me.
Oh, okay, this is the,
To the right, to the right.
okay, this is the one before. I didn't get a picture of your last hike, but this is, yeah, okay, it was
Right.
great.
So this is when we went up Taylor Mountain. Right. And that was great, and Charlie allowed me to hold his arm as I was walking down, because it was a little difficult. And then yesterday, it was just Charlie and I, and we did a 3-mile on Laguna Road over here, across from it, so we just walked.
Great.
It was
Okay.
great. Lots of
Thank
nice
you.
talking.
Okay. And Brian, is Brian here? Oh, he's still running. Okay, it looks like he was running. I'm gonna get him on this one at another time then. I want him to talk about this. All right, Linda, you had a Thanksgiving party. Where are you? Oh, you're over there.
Oh, yep.
like everybody else.
Well, tell us a little about that.
We all gathered at Willow Road Cafe in Grayton and had a great meal.
It looks like you have quite a crowd.
There's about 14 of us.
Wow. I see him sitting there. Great. Okay, that looks like a fun time. Thank you. Do we have announcements? No announcements. Okay. And do we have an attitude of gratitude? Anyone feeling grateful today for their Thanksgiving? Okay. Mike?
Feeling grateful that we got involved with a global grant in Tanzania to do clean water and sanitation and hygiene project. And it's all the contributing organizations fulfilled their pledges, and the application is finally on its way with all the authorizations to the Rotary Foundation. So all this remains now is to wait for approval, and then we can start that project. So hopefully they'll have a nice Christmas present in Tanzania.
Well, good. Thank you very much. That's terrific. Oh, and yeah, Scott, I did get your Christmas party.
Okay.
Yes, we're good there. And looking forward to it this Friday, 5:30 your place. Thank you very much, and it is a potluck.
Chips and dip on the way.
Oh boy, thank you.
And the hat.
Okay. All right, so upcoming events, we have the potluck at the Hensies. On the 5th, the community service will be having a meeting. On the 11th, Marty Webb, another party. This is a partying group. Okay.
I do not have every new member's email, because I sent out emails or e-bites like October 1st, but please drop by anytime Sunday between the 11th, between 1 and 5, and we will be having the annual Christmas party.
Okay, thank you. That's always a good time.
Yeah, and I will honor my secretary that helped me send out the e-bites.
No, I don't have them. I think the club secretary does. New addresses.
Oh,
Get that from my.
but Terry did help me move the things over to the e-bike, which I don't know how to do.
How come you weren't grateful for that? You're welcome.
Time to be grateful. Thank you. Okay. All right, and then, pardon? Oh, Bill, okay.
The one thing missing on the list is on December 12th, which is no, that says Sunday, December 10th, the day before, is going to be our cleanup of the traffic triangle outside of Screamin' Mimi's, and across the street. There's two triangles. As a reminder, we have one every month, and they rotate between the trash cleanup on High School Road, the triangle cleanup there, and cleaning up at the post office. And then every third month we repeat over and over.
So that is going to be on the 10th. I'll get that out and send it out to everybody.
Great.
Okay, thank you. All right. And then we're up for a Zoom board meeting, and then we are dark. We on the 21st and the 28th. That means we have no meeting. We also have volunteer at the Redwood Empire Food Bank on the 24th. So if you can help others who have less than yourselves, show up and help pack some food for them. Thank you.
So there's an international committee meeting also.
Oh, okay. I had that down in the morning and I didn't think you were doing that, so that's
The
what I saw. on the calendar.
international committee meeting will be December 12th. It's a Zoom meeting, 5:30. That's the second Monday of the month.
Yeah. Second. Well, at what time again? 5:30?
5:30.
Okay. I'll get that in there too. Thank you.
Excuse me, Diana, you had December 24 or something as, for Redwood Food Bank?
Yeah, the,
But it says Wednesday, December 24.
did I screw up again?
December 28th.
Okay, I will double check that. That's what I had down. Okay, thank you. Okay. Now, okay, next week, we will have John McCall, and this week, we have our own Nick Randall, and come on up and introduce.
So, this is going to be the shortest introduction you ever heard, because we all know Nick. But it did occur to me that the membership of this club is about 10% published authors. When you start adding up all the books that have been done, that's very cool. We've had several author talks. In case Nick doesn't mention it, the author talks are ones where we allow back of the room sales, and there are some copies of Nick's book back there. I bought mine on Amazon, which I realized was no favor to Nick. I should have bought one directly from him so that Jeff Bezos didn't get his cut. Anyway, here we go.
We had a lavalier mic around someplace and set it up and it was working. So if I can, I'd prefer that, but we can get started anyway. So I know that there are others. Oh, here we go. One, two, three. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Ken Brand here.
His spirit is.
He's in Fiji, actually, so no.
Is there a number on it?
4. And Brandon is in Fiji this week.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Thank you very much. I think it goes in and out, I'm not sure.
When you turn your head on that one, you didn't know.
Well, I'll do the best I can with what I've got. Maybe I'll just use the real voice. So, I wrote a book called The End of the Road. It's a novel, and this is a very odd book. Not just because I wrote it, but because it is episodic in nature. It is 93 chapters, flipping back and forth between past and present time, remembrances and current experiences. Much as our own minds work with our past, continually informing our present. The reader will quickly grasp the rhythm and sequencing as each new chapter has a trigger reminding us.
Must be standing next
Go back to the handheld.
Am I good now?
Yes.
Yeah.
You did the old, put in front of the speaker.
Oh, okay, over here. Great, okay, thank you. Each new chapter has a trigger reminding you of where you are, so you don't get lost between the present and past time. The story is based on the life of my father, born near Riverside in 1904, whose work history as a civil engineer, mostly in Southern California, span the 20th century. I started the book in 1998, shortly after he passed away, and finished in 2021. The labor of love, 22 years. It is a history book, a geography book, and a social psychology book on the challenges of aging, something some of us can relate to. It is both fiction and fact, sourced from contemporaneous personal diaries, photographs, documents, newspapers, government tracts, 35 volumes of California history, and my own personal recollections. But most of all, it's a story for all of us who are mindful of ourselves and those around us as we advance through our time.
The best summary of the book I can do is
Right on the back, and then I'll read some passages. But this is the back leaf. Refusing to acknowledge the growing limitations of age, Carson Williamson, the protagonist, clings tenaciously to his self-image as an independent, self-reliant, problem-solving builder who worked on the 20th century enabling infrastructure that made today's West possible. 1920s earthquake recovery in Santa Barbara. I'm sure Gus will remember that. Transmission lines across the Tehachapies, the Colorado River aqueduct through the Mojave, Depression-era rock stack in Pasadena, a hydroelectric dam in Polson, Montana, and a World War II aircraft plant in Los Angeles. Construction of Disneyland in Anaheim and the Santa Onofre nuclear plant. Those were all things he really did. To escape 1990s commercialism and nagging advice from his well-meaning family, Carson finds solace and regains a measure of control over his life behind the wheel of an old Buick station wagon. In the Buick, he feels independent, finds ways to be useful, and even rekindles an adventuresome spirit while exploring Northern California back roads. As creeping physical and mental disabilities close in, Carson intensifies his search for an ideal place where nothing will intrude on him.
We'll try it. Okay, we'll try this. Where nothing will intrude on him and where he is in control, at one with the natural world that he loves and can reflect on his long life in peace. He finally finds it. So I'm going to start with a present time vignette. Carson is returning from a visit to his family of grandkids living in Missouri, and he's driving across northern Nevada by himself. Carson was thinking about those wagon trains as he paralleled the Humboldt steadily westward from Battle Mountain into the afternoon sun. He knew something about history of the West, its native tribes and explorers and mountain men, and its gradually opening by white settlers and invaders. What's that? Let me just stay with this. It's fine. He knew something about the history of the West, its native tribes, explorers, and mountain men, and its gradual opening by white settlers, or invaders, depending on one's point of view. Not just white anymore, either. Now there were all the colors of humankind's rainbow who had found the American West and happily moved in. The Buick climbed effortlessly up a gently curving rise that moved the sun temporarily off his windshield and onto the driver's side window, halfway down to let in the clean Nevada highway breeze. When he glanced to the left over the broad, almost verdant, linear depression indicating the riverbed, He could imagine a string of oxen-drawn wagons with families so driven by the promise of something better that they risked everything to plunge into the wilderness, guided only by rumors. At this point in their odyssey, perhaps late August or September, they were probably feeling good about their bet. They were cruising, maybe even relaxing a bit, moving a pace more slowly than they should have been, with animals tired but holding up with enough to eat and drink. They would beat the odds, prove the relatives and stay-putters wrong. They would win, and California would be their prize. They couldn't yet see the last great barrier, the Sierra Nevada, a wall with few cracks where tardy assault or an early snow blanket might shut them out, condemning many to extreme privation, loss of their carefully shepherded possessions, or death. Carson knew the Sierras were there, and he understood that the clock was ticking, but he didn't know how to warn the pilgrims. I wonder how old Baron Humboldt himself would feel about all these wires and towns and fences and billboards and highways cluttering up this space, Carson said to no one in particular. Actually, he never even saw this country. It was Fremont's doing, hanging this godforsaken, miserable excuse for a river on the old German. Carson smiled. He loved this place. Despite his grousing about the increasing scars of civilization, northern Nevada was still pretty much wide open, with little traffic, blue sky, clear air, hot in summer and cold in winter. This was the West, the real West, unlike LA or Vegas or San Francisco or any city. When someone attempted to paint a picture of the West, it should be of the land, not the people, that made it to canvas. Even in a modern painting where the view is often obscured by buildings and signs and pretty faces, the painter who understood the West always let the earth show through. Interstate 80 awakened from its northwestern drift and corrected back to the southwest toward Winnemucca and Lovelock. The Humboldt answered with a silent swing of its own. Unbroken miles of hot concrete pavement lay in front of Carson before he could rest for the night in Sparks, the less lit neighbor of Reno. He preferred Sparks as a friendlier, more relaxed venue for his casual gambling layovers. The tables and machines were no better, but their stewards and patrons seemed less compulsive, less desperate. It was often still a pathetic crowd of alcoholics, ne'er-do-wells, sure-thingers, bored seniors, and barely 20s on the make. But in Sparks, they seemed more at ease, not quite so close to the edge. More after fun than survival. Reno was big time, hardcore, with mega casinos orchestrating the extraction of one's dollars with a refined, more impersonal corporate calculator. Carson had liked Reno better, when some of the light bulbs on the biggest little city in the world sign, boastfully arching over Virginia Street, were out. Now there was someone to replace the burned bulbs every day, and the dealers didn't smile as much when they took your money. Now I'm going to go forward through the book, but back in time to a job experience. He worked on the Colorado River Aqueduct in the mid-1920s, and then lost his job along with a lot of other people when the Depression collapsed the economy and the work stopped for a while. And he cast around for 100 ways to find a job and couldn't find a job. And finally, when the WPA was created by the Roosevelt administration, the Works Progress administration, he found a job stacking rocks. This is a certified engineer. And he was moving boulders and stacking them around the Arroyo Seco next to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. And this is his first day at work. Williamson, eh? Yep, you're on the list. Let's put you to work, barked Andrew Kennedy in a loud, deep brogue that belied his 5'6" height and 60+ years. He extended his hand and almost crushed Carson's. Kennedy's florid face and thick beard gave the impression of a one-time seaman, but his coat, tie, and derby hat on a day when the temperature would exceed 90 degrees spoke more of a land-based boss, someone in charge and not to be fooled with. Matson, telephone Morelli and find out where those trucks are. They were supposed to be here before 8 o'clock. Don't let him give you any nonsense. Tell him if he can't deliver on time, we'll get someone else. Cassidy, I'm leaving now to inspect over at Salvia Canyon. I'll take Williamson here, and you wait for the next lot of newcomers to bring over. Anyone not here by 8:20 may as well just go home. Williamson, walk with me. Considering that he had to take 2 steps for every one of Carson's, Kennedy set a brisk pace. But even if they had been running, Kennedy's verbal pace would have easily outdistanced his flying feet. Carson found himself wondering if the older man ever breathed, much less paused or allowed space for someone else to slip in a comment. His 10-minute monologue covered a dozen topics and twice as many opinions on the state of various aspects of the world. Listen to that blue jay. From all that caterwauling, he must have a nest up in that oak tree. Do you like birds? I've been observing and studying birds since I was a kid in Ohio. You can learn a lot from birds. Ever flown in an airplane? Me, I like trucks, big ones that can move a load, like those boulders that they're supposed to have delivered by now. How do you build a rock wall without rocks? Some people are just irresponsible. They pay no attention to time or details. You're not like that, are you? I suspect not, because you were on time. That says something about a man. Don't think I didn't notice. I'll also notice when you screw up. I fired 3 men last week because they were lollygagging, expecting to get paid for sitting on their arses. Not on my watch, Sonny. WPA starts with work, doesn't it? Nobody's getting rich here, not at $45 a month, but we are doing something useful. That's what Roosevelt wants, and that's what we're giving him. I don't know if you're a Republican or a Democrat, but whatever you are, if you work hard, you'll stay on the right side of both Roosevelt and me. Frankly, I liked his cousin Teddy better, but we'll make the most of what we've got. Like those rocks, I can't send a crew home when the boulders don't show up. We'll just switch over to more brush clearing, leveling, and foundation digging until they get here. The foreman knows what to do to keep making progress. Progress, that's the second word in WPA. The administration part is just Washington stuff. So the W and P about cover it. Can you type? Freddie at the office said that you went to college. Maybe you can learn how to work, and then I can use you in the office for some administration. When we shook hands, I noticed you didn't have any calluses. After you build up some calluses doing real work like everybody else, you'll be better suited to work with your head. Anyway, here we are. Go talk to Tony over there in the blue shirt. He'll get you started on those calluses. Where are those damn trucks? So back to present time. Carson injures himself in an accident stepping in a hole on a broken sidewalk. And so his whole adult life he's suffered with this ankle injury that bothers him. And occasionally it gets really tough and he finally makes an appointment to go to the doctor. This is in Santa Rosa, by the way. After his wife dies, moves to Santa Rosa to a retirement community named Rosemont. So he goes to the doctor's office and he's in the waiting room. Mr. Williams, a young skinny nurse called out from halfway behind the door into the inner sanctum. Carson looked around to see which lucky fellow sufferer was rising to meet this invitation. When no one moved, the nurse doubled her volume as if to compensate for suspected hearing loss on the part of a geriatric patient who may have forgotten to turn on his hearing aid. Mr. Carson Williams? The whole room looked up now, along with everybody in the waiting area across the hall, to see who this inattentive deaf person was. Carson jumped up, causing a stabbing pain in his ankle, and barked back, "I heard you the first time, young lady. I'm not deaf, but I'll thank you to note that that is not my correct name. Williamson, please, not Williams. I would have thought by now, in this time in your career, you could at least read. Huffy and frowning, the nurse held the door open not quite long enough for Carson to slip through without banging his elbow on the swinging hazard. Ow, he muttered, but she was already turned on her heel and headed, marching in aggressive silence toward the hall scale for the obligatory weigh-in. 205, she announced loud enough for the deaf Mr. Williams to hear out in the waiting area. Looks like you put on a few pounds since your last visit. But before he could protest that according to his home scale, he had actually been losing weight, she had gone down the hallway into one of Dr. Sanchez's 2 examination rooms. Fortunately, Carson knew where to go, and he crept along at the slowest possible pace to make the impertinent woman wait as long as he could without confirming her suspicion of his intent. True to the pattern that had developed between them since Carson began seeing Dr. Sanchez shortly after arriving in Santa Rosa, the result of this visit was as unsatisfying as it was inconclusive. Yes, his ankle was swollen and the tendons irritated. Arthritic spurs were causing pain when he overexerted because his manner of walking had been altered since the injury, and he stressed tendons more than normal. Limping may have given some immediate compensating relief, but in the long run, the limp caused other problems to knees, hips, and feet. If the pain is too much for you, Carson, and the meds are not working, I can get you a wheelchair to cut back on your walking. After all, at 87, you aren't a youngster anymore. Medicare will cover most of it, but it will mean a change of lifestyle for you. Do you have steps where you live? Yes, I do, and no, I won't move out of my condo and give up my car for a wheelchair. Not a chance. I appreciate your concern and that you are trying to help, but as long as the rest of me still works pretty well, I'm not going to let my foot decide who I am, where I live, or what I can do. Isn't there somebody who can help you with your transportation or mobility issues? Asked the doctor hopefully. Of course, answered Carson immediately, but that's a big part of the problem. They're too ready to help, to the point where they'd like to manage and control everything I do. I know the family would love to get rid of my Buick and consign me to paratransit buses and Meals on Wheels dependency, but I'm not ready to give up my freedom yet. I need to drive, to be at the wheel, to turn right or left at the intersections of my own choosing, to go when and where I want. I think if I couldn't drive any longer, I'd just throw in the towel. Carson, Dr. Sanchez said quietly, I don't want you to give up anything. I want you to do as much as you want to do for as long as you feel you can. I'll give you all the help I can to make your life as full and meaningful as possible. I think you're amazing, an inspiration to us all. Just keep on keeping on. For the 2 years of their relationship, Dr. Sanchez had been professionally competent, genuinely concerned, and cooperative as a partner in managing Carson's physical health. She had been sensitive to his emotional needs as well, understanding the disorienting psychological trauma he had suffered with the still fresh loss of his life partner. For a woman in her early 40s, she was also surprisingly aware of and sympathetic to the range of senior emotions about being too close or too far from his children and grandchildren, his need to feel useful and desperate fear of dependency. But this had been the first time Carson felt as if he had really connected with her as a confidential partner. Despite the good feeling Carson had about Dr. Sanchez, he continued to be frustrated that there would never seem to be any real solution to his health problems of the moment. Nothing medical ever got resolved, only postponed to the result of this or that test, or experience with a new therapy, or feedback from trying another pill. Most treatment worked a little, part way, or some of the time. There never seemed to be answers. Carson, in a fit of independence, decides to go to the county fair in Santa Rosa. And he enjoys the fair during the day, and then he wants to get something to eat in the afternoon, and he has this childhood memory of corn dogs. So he lines up for a corn dog, and he gets into a confrontation with a local gang leader. And so the next night at dinner with his family, his son and his family, there's a confrontation with the family about what happened at the county fair. And this is his son, Hank. "I can't believe you didn't call the police or the sheriff or someone," said Hank, practically coming out of his chair. You could have been killed." "Grandpa, did that really happen?" asked an incredulous Jerry, the son. "Could you have taken him if you had to?" "Stop that kind of talk this instant, young man," said Nancy. "Of course your grandfather would never have tried to fight with that hoodlum. I read about these things in the paper all the time now, and everyone knows you should just give him what he wants, walk away, and call the police." Carson looked at Jerry and said, "Your mother is right, you know, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, we don't think so clearly. At that moment, I just decided that I wasn't going to let him get away with disrespecting that mother and her little girl. It wasn't right, and it wasn't fair." "And it wasn't smart either," piped in Hank. "You've got to get into your head that you're not a young man in the 1920s anymore. There are bad people out there, and bad people sometimes have guns and knives, and they will not blink about using them, even on a defenseless old man." "Who said anything about defenseless?" Carson interjected, slightly louder than he intended. "I had my wits about me, and I was perfectly capable of diffusing the situation without any violence. Some of us carry weapons in our head instead of our pockets." "Well, that's all well and good, Dad," said Nancy, "but I don't want Jerry or Carolyn out there on the school campus or on the street challenging gang members with their heads. We're trying to teach them to be realistic, to be careful, and to avoid confrontation and stay away from bad elements. I went to the county fair, for heaven's sake. I got in line for a corn dog. I was looking for dinner, not to pick a fight. It found me, not me it. But when the conflict was there and unavoidable, I confronted it with my head instead of my fists. That seems to me a pretty good strategy, don't you think? There are some fights that will find us no matter what we are doing, and they will find Jerry and Carolyn too. Wouldn't you rather your kids were prepared to deal with them head on rather than running away or getting a black eye? Dad, you're so unrealistic sometimes. I don't know what we're going to do with you," said an exasperated Hank. "Well, you can start by passing me some of that roast beef. I came over here for dinner, not the third degree, and if I can't get my supper here, I may go out for another corn dog." I got time for one more here. So one of the jobs he has is building a dam, a hydroelectric dam in Montana, in the middle, actually over 2 years, so a lot of winters and real summers. But when the job is finished, then the crew breaks up and goes out. So this is the celebration that they're having for the community at the end of this huge project. Carson hung back to one side with Russ, his friend, and a couple of the other engineers quietly drinking it all in. It had been 2 long, eventful years since they arrived, and Carson was wrestling with the mixed emotions of parting from now familiar surrounding responsibilities and relationships, while at the same time being eager to find out what would be next. From where he stood, he could see the top of the dam, his dam, and with its arc of his floodgates bending across the canyon. Behind it stretched the deep blue water of the lake. This is Flathead Lake. Deep blue water of the lake and the yellow ocean of grass with the Mission Range in the distance. It was a magical setting, and Carson felt good about what he had accomplished, satisfied for the first time in his career that he had really made a meaningful contribution using his professional training and experience. More than just a resume builder, his work on the dam raised his self-image about what he could do when given a chance. He had worked alongside Russ and the other engineers as an equal, and no one cared whether or not he had a degree.
He was competent and he proved it. With the drone of speeches finally quieted and the food arrayed on several tables, and 1,000 people began queuing up and settling in for a communal feast. There were fiddles in one area and drums in another for two very different kinds of dancing. And kids and dogs ran riot in, out, and around the festivities. Some of the farm families from the east side of the lake had brought bushel baskets of cherries to share, and Carson wandered over to grab a handful. Not only did he like to eat the cherries, but he also loved to spit the pits, a particular childhood pleasure carefully rationed by his vigilant parents when growing up. With no such restraint at hand, he began munching and spitting with fine effect, enjoying himself thoroughly. "Betcha I can beat ya," came a small voice from the side. Carson turned and saw a 10-year-old boy with a handful of cherries doing exactly what he was doing, munching and spitting. As his tongue finished polishing a pit on his teeth, the imp mumbled, "Guess what's me?" and doo went the pit out across the prairie about 15 feet. "You're on," responded Carson, with credibility as a repressed grammar schooler on the line. "Tooey!" He launched a pit in the same direction, about as far. "Oh, that's nothing," came back at him with bruising disdain as his tormentor loaded up for another round. Came like a thunderclap as the seed disappeared into a tuft of grass, fully 18 feet away. Carson quickly surveyed his remaining ammunition, hoping to find the Big Bertha with which to settle things. "You're both pathetic," announced a female voice from behind the table where the cherry-filled baskets rested. Carson looked over and had to refocus as a young woman in her early 20s was reaching into a basket for her own ammunition. She was dressed in a farmer's flannel shirt and bib overalls and had a straw hat to shade her auburn hair. She was cute as a button and just a little sassy. "Joey, you're not even the champion in your own family. How can you expect to beat this big stranger when you can't even beat your sister?" Fumbling for something to say, Carson swallowed the whole cherry he had been hoped to produce the winning pit. Choking, coughing hard several times and trying to get a breath. "Easy, big fella, I won't beat you too badly," she said with more than a hint of enjoyment in her eyes. Carson was red as a beet and eyes watering, bent over and still coughing with his hand over his mouth when he croaked, "No fair, 2 against 1, you sneaked up on me." Without hesitation or fanfare, the late entry let fly, easily surpassing 25 feet. Both male competitors stopped chewing and gawked. "How did you do that?" Carson asked incredulously. "Mister," she said, "I've been planting, watering, pruning, picking and packing cherries my whole life. How is it I'm not going to be able to eat a few now and again? And unlike some people who try to swallow them whole, I separate out the pits. They're not much good for saving, so I spit them. Been doing it since I could walk. You got a lot of catching up to do if you're going to catch me." And she turned and walked away without another word, leaving Carson with his mouth open wide enough to swallow an apple.
Wow.
Now we're out of time.
That's terrific, Nick. Thank you so very much. Okay. Oh, what happened here? Well, it looks like we lost my screen. We ought to be here somewhere. Okay. Next. What on earth is this? That one? That there. Okay. Well, we will, hey, found him. Okay, Terry, you got a joke for us? We want to, okay, we'll do the drawing first. Doesn't matter, whatever you say. Okay.
The winning ticket is 3729.
You're the winner. Okay, where's the bag of marbles? They're over there. Okay, we'll get this.
It was rigged.
It's rigged. Okay. Okay.
What is it I'm looking for?
You're looking for a red marble.
It's got one up your sleeve.
Well, no, okay. Now we got a joke. Okay.
So, we're gonna do a participation joke. And you all get to participate, and you all know how this thing goes, so play along with me. I expect everybody to play along. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
No bell. No bell, so I knock. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Control freak. This is when you say control freak out. Now, my wife fell for that one. Hook, line, and sinker. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Then eyes.
I do.
Then eyes was 17. This is for Gus. It was a very good year. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
KGB.
KGB who?
We will ask the questions. And finally, no, we're not over yet. Nice try. Not quite over yet. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Two. It's to whom?
Great, thank you so much. That's great. Okay, now I can ring the bell. I'm going to do it twice because I didn't do it at the beginning. Oh, and we have to sing Happy Trails. I'm sorry, Lynn, we were supposed to do that first. Come on up. You, to you,